meeting to order. If you would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So good evening, and thank you all for coming tonight. This business meeting is being held both in person and virtually through Zoom in compliance with RSU 38 policy BED, remote participation in school board meetings. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the maranacook.org YouTube channel. So we're going to do roll call. So again, like we always do, if there's any board members online, please make sure you can hear us. And please say here or present when I call your name going through here. So I'm going to start with Dave G.
Here.
There we go. Jade.
Here.
Annie.
Here.
Dane is absent, and he informed us that. Tyler, I believe, is online, but want to confirm.
Here.
Thank you, Tyler. Christine?
Here.
Kathy?
Here.
Patty?
Here.
Rebecca?
Here.
Betty?
Here.
Sean is absent. He had informed us. Kelty?
Here.
David T.
Here.
Student reps, Esme Jameson, not online and not here. Eric?
Here.
Thank you. Back to you. Okay, so first on our agenda tonight is citizen comments. So before I call for citizen comments, I just want to say a few words. In accordance with RSU 38 policy BEDH, which is public participation at school board meetings, the following guidelines will be followed. For those attending via Zoom, you will notice that the microphones will be muted except during the identified portions of the public comments at this meeting, which is number 3, what we're doing right now. If you're viewing on Zoom and would like to speak during the public comment times, please use the chat feature to notify Diane McGregor and she will communicate with me. In-person speakers, please sign up on the sheet at the clipboard by the door. All speakers, please identify yourself with first and last name and the town you live in. Priority will be given to individuals who live or pay taxes in our member communities, immediate family members of enrolled students, and employees of RSU 38. Individuals that do not have one of these direct connections to our district may or may not be given permission to speak at the discretion of the board chair. We ask that speakers limit their comments to 3 minutes, and if someone who has similar views as of yours speaks ahead of you, please reference their comment rather than repeating the same ideas. We want to hear from all of our stakeholders and ask that you be respectful with your constructive comments to the board. I would also like to clarify how we address concerns of the public. In accordance with RSU 38 policy BEDH, we welcome all respectful comments and concerns, and we ask that you not use any derogatory comments or use names or identifying comments of any district personnel. We cannot discuss specific personnel matters in public, but we can listen to broad concerns that you may have. All speakers are to address the chair and direct questions or comments to particular board members only with approval of the chair. The board will hear and record comments and questions, but will not debate the matters at this meeting. Board questions, people that have on the board that have questions must go through the board chair also. Following this meeting, or any meeting that we have public participation, we will take time to research and gather information on the matters that were brought forward. And at our next board meeting, we will follow up with information on the issues that people have brought to us. The public is also always encouraged to call the superintendent at any time with issues and concerns that they may have. So at this time, I'm asking if there are any citizen comments. Okay. Are there any additions or adjustments to the agenda by the board or the superintendent? I don't have it.
Can I add one thing?
We can talk about it. Yep.
I just want to bring up the food situation briefly. Just a quick discussion kind of item.
Is that okay with the rest of the board to discuss that tonight? Sure. We will, 6C, okay? Anything else? Okay. So we have one action item tonight. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes of September 7th?
Motion to approve of the minutes of September 7th, 2022 board meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, my name was misspelled in the, so I just would ask that it be corrected. It's Gadosha with an O. That's totally fine.
Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. Any other discussion from the board? Okay,
Okay, we do have to do a roll call vote, so please bear with me. David G.
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Annie,
Do I abstain since I wasn't? Abstain.
thank you. Tyler,
Yes.
thank you. Christine,
Yes.
Kathy,
yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Kelty,
Yes.
David T,
Yes.
and Eric.
Yes.
Thank you. So it passes with one abstention.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is some information and discussion items. And first of all, are the board committee assignments. So in the packet, there was the list of the committees that we've all been assigned to. Is everybody aware of that? Do we have everybody? Let me, just want to check to make sure you're on some committee. I think we did have everybody, so.
Oh, I have an extra packet here. Can't.
that goes on to that. Any discussion on the committees? Any questions?
I noticed under the communications committee, it says that it meets as needed. And I thought that we had discussed meeting over the
Yeah.
summer, but obviously that didn't happen. But is that going to be like a monthly thing, or I thought there was going to be more of a schedule?
We're looking for a monthly one, yes. Yep, sorry, that got by me. I didn't update that, but that will be a monthly meeting. Thank you, Rebecca.
Anyone else? Okay, so this is what it's going to look like for the year.
And if we're going to have a facilities committee meeting tomorrow. And it's just holdover items from last year that people need updates on. So we did set it up for in-person and Zoom. If you do want to come to the meeting, you're welcome to do that, but I do have a Zoom available for those people on the committee. And again, it's just a holdover of things that we need to be able to kind of move on. Oh, Diane. Tyler, go ahead.
Just a quick question on alt ed committees. When is that roughly in a year, just so I can plan ahead?
That is a good question, and Mr. Vos is not here today. He runs that committee.
Okay.
So I will ask him, it'll be next Monday or Tuesday, to reach out to you, Tyler, and let you know about the
Okay.
date, or time of year, okay?
I think
Okay.
he's talking.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's,
The dropout alternative.
Yeah.
And that's usually once a year, right? It's just
Yeah.
one meeting.
oh, sorry, yes, right there, but I'll have, okay. We'll reach out. And then, just so people know, we'll have committee meetings starting in the month of October, so you'll see that schedule coming out, and you'll see those dates and times coming out shortly. So just wanted to confirm before we got those out to everyone, so, okay?
Isn't there a meeting next? Yeah, there's a meeting next. Right, the teacher evaluation committee.
Yep.
And does that time next to it refer to the time of the meeting?
Yes,
Is it at 3
that's-
o'clock? Okay.
Yeah, we usually try to do it because it has the majority of teacher membership, so we try to do it right after school for the teachers on that one.
Okay, that may be hard for me
Okay.
because I usually work past that time.
Well, you and I can talk to
Okay,
make it,
great.
facilitate it for you, okay?
Thank you so much.
Yes.
fine, just so.
Any other questions or comments?
I do assume that there'll be like a schedule sent out to us. Okay. Perfect. Just want to make sure. I know when it is and I'm
Good
showing
question.
up where I'm supposed to be. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda are the board goals. So we're thinking about maybe coming with some ideas for our goals for the year. So I'm just going to open it up to anybody that might have had some ideas. Last year, just to remind people, our goals would present a budget that would be inclusive and comprehensive educational program that sustain student curiosity, inspire students to be engaged citizens, and to foster a safe, supportive learning environment in partnership with community organizations. And our measure of success would be that the budget was approved. So we met that goal. Okay. And the second goal was to provide a unique professional culture that attracts and maintains dynamic staff. We said we would review policies and update or add as necessary, and we would support and collaborate with administrators in their work to develop strategies to retain the dynamic staff that we have. And we said our measure of success would be a 90% retention of the current staff. And we did not meet that goal. So that, I just wanted to give you an idea of what we did last year and what we might think about for this year. Does anybody have any thoughts?
I would like to revise the 90% and try to focus on that again as a priority.
Jade?
Mine was the same comment.
Anyone else? Betty?
One of the big things that we did last year was forming the communication committee. And hopefully that would go, would boost morale too if communication were increased. So whether it becomes another strategy to meet the goal, or it becomes a separate goal itself, I think we need to address that because we just barely got started with communication.
Right. Yeah. Anyone else?
Sure.
Good.
Only, no.
I didn't see anybody else. That's fine.
Okay, well, I like what you said, Betty, and the 90%, let's keep our goals high. I think a budget approval by the voters is an indicator of, one indicator of attainment of our goals, but maybe I'm just taking wrong. I don't think that's actually a stamp of approval, because there's so much that goes into people's evaluation of the budget that whether we've met these goals may not be, but I don't know what else we could put there with that to indicate that it's like tests are not the sole thing we want to evaluate our students by. There's a broader perspective that we want on each student and their growth and achievement. And I think there's quite a few things that say whether we have achieved our goals and have led the policies of the district possibly. But I'm no help in figuring out how to word that.
Just writing down some notes here. I was thinking the same thing, David, when I was thinking about fostering a safe and supportive learning environment in partnership with community organizations. I kept thinking, what have we done that really meets that? And I'm not really sure. But go ahead, Betty.
We talked about surveys last year, and it seems that a survey might measure, might be useful in measuring those goals better than just saying we passed a budget.
That could be part of our board evaluation,
Yeah.
It could be.
get more than ourselves into the evaluation process.
That's what I was just gonna suggest. Maybe that could be opened up to administrators and staff. Evaluate this as well.
The only thing I'm gonna caution is be careful what you're asking for.
Yeah.
Because again, just because there's gonna be some in the public who don't agree with decisions that we've made, doesn't make our decisions wrong. We've done them in the best interest of everybody in our community. And I think sometimes people take that as a forum to voice and express their opinions and everything else. And so we may not get the best feedback because a lot of people who do the surveys are doing them for negative reasons.
Yeah, we always have to be really careful about surveys, for sure, how we word the questions and how we look at the data. But at least it'll give us some data. So I guess I'm just trying to process what everyone's saying. Do we want to keep the same goals and just kind of revise the indicators of success? Or do we want to have totally different goals? And I know, I agree with Betty that we need to add communication in here somehow, because that's a big thing that I think will help us achieve our goals.
So,
Go ahead, Dave.
I'd like to see what happens after this year if we keep the same goals, because, you know, we are coming off of 2 years of pandemic. I think we might see some changes this year, and it might be a chance to see some of those goals come to fruition.
Good point. Any other discussion?
I mean, we'll have to change them some because everything doesn't apply.
Right. So what I would suggest is that either myself or somebody else, if somebody else wants to do it, could take these and just kind of revamp them a little bit to be more, so that they reflect more what we want to do this year, but kind of leaving them the same. So I could do that and bring back a draft to you at our next meeting, and then we can look at them again, or somebody else could do it if they want. And then we could go from there,
I can
or
do
somebody
it.
could help me.
I can do it, or I can help you.
Why don't we
can
do it
make some
together?
Smart goals.
Why don't we do it together? How's that?
Sounds good.
Okay. Is that all right with everyone?
Yes.
Kathy, can I just add in that looking at the profession of culture goal, remember a discussion that we had in executive session at the end of last year, that we really should probably include the human resource director, who's kind of the keeper of all that knowledge, so we can sift through and kind of refine that goal. Does that 90% mean 90% of teaching staff or 90% of all staff? You know, just, I think it's very important that we kind of frame that very carefully going into this year. I think we learned some lessons from that, but I think having Kate Taylor, our human resource director, involved in kind of vetting that goal will be very helpful for the board. So just a reminder.
So I also heard David, I think you said that you wanted to reduce the 90% to, or do, and then I think David, you said we should keep the 90%.
90%.
You're positively keeping 90%. That's a goal.
Well,
How do other people feel about 90?
Just wonder if it seems high to me, given turnover in other districts. Is there a comparative, do we have any kind of comparison? And definitely would depend on, I mean, some positions turn over much more frequently. I think that's where you were going with the teachers or professional staff or. So.
I like to shoot high.
Patty?
I'd like to shoot high too. I wonder if, do we have to have a number? Could we say more or fewer, you know, fewer leaving or more staying? Or can we just have some vague term rather than a percentage? Or do we need to have something quantifiable like that?
I guess it depends upon what kind of goal we want. Right. If we want a SMART goal, then we need to have a specific, I think, maybe I'm not tied to that though. We can do whatever you want.
I mean, if it is a smart goal. We should be specific about what we're looking for and what we're trying to attain, whether it be 90%, whether it be 80%, whether it be 85. I don't know. Do you know the exact percentage for last year?
Do not know off the top of my head. I apologize.
And again, we don't know what percentage are we talking about?
Right.
Are we talking about the whole
Staff
staff? Are we
or
talking about just the teaching staff? Rebecca?
It just reminds me of our conversation last year where we said, we set the 90% because it was a goal and that was something that we wanted to work towards. So I'm okay with it being 90%.
Okay, so we'll just leave it at that and we'll work on it and see what we can come up with and bring it back to the next meeting. Is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So 6C, food service discussion.
Yeah, so I do know there was an email that went out that there's going to be a meeting coming up this next week to have a little bit more in-depth discussion. I think now that school is back in session, something that has come up quite a bit. I had a child come home yesterday and did not eat lunch because she was one of the last tables to go up and was offered chicken chunks. Not even kidding, that is a menu item, chicken chunks. Don't know middle school, so I was very kind of surprised by that. I was like, I don't know what chicken chunks are. Enlighten me. They have chicken tenders, they have chicken nuggets, and they have chicken chunks. And they were pretty inedible. Again, I worry that we're providing a lot of convenience foods. We're not prepping our foods. We should be looking at what we're feeding our kids because again, that gives them the energy to focus and be present in class through the rest of the day. Just like breakfast is super important, so is lunch. So I really, I don't know. I guess it just didn't really hit home until my own kid comes home and says, hey, I got chicken chunks for lunch. I'm like, I don't think I would eat chicken chunks for lunch. But I know that you guys are doing a lot of deep dive and looking at what's there and what options we have. I just want to make sure we're keeping it at the forefront because that's pretty important. It's really important what we're feeding our kids. I know that it's free meals for everybody in the districts right now.
So
We need
yeah,
to
I
make
mean,
sure
we
it's
have a
quality.
meeting on Wednesday to really discuss this and look at it more deeply and see where we want to go with it and what we want to do. So those things will be
And we'll,
addressed.
so I guess my question is at that meeting, is it going to be everybody comes prepared? We know what our budget is. We know what items we're serving. We know the vendors. We know everything ahead of time.
Hopefully.
So that when we get into that meeting, it's a beneficial meeting and it's not a starting grounds meeting. It's a let's move forward and figure out, let's brainstorm together and make some smart
Hopefully
choices.
hopefully that's what the meeting will be.
Okay.
Kelsey, did you have your hand up down there?
Yeah, Jade, you just stole words right out of my mouth. So I am very passionate about this too and making sure there's very nutritious, dense food for these kiddos. And so I'm excited for that meeting next week. And I just wanted to make sure too that those details were brought to that meeting and we were ready for that. So we could really look at it and make an action plan. And also not just the budget stuff, but Mills just made legislation about it and I'm not savvy to it. I've got to research it, but I thought maybe she's ahead of me in the game and Jen would have that available. Funding, it's all about funding. So we might not have to pay for improvements at all. Very exciting.
Anything else on that? Okay, we will now move into our workshop portion of the meeting and Karen Smith is going to present us with our NWEA data. And I believe we all have,
Yes, you have a one-pager handout, but we actually have a presentation. So you might want to make sure you can see, especially people on this side, see the projector. And I'm actually going to be joining Dr. Smith up there. I was involved in this, so. So we're just, oh, look at that. Diane's already got the slides up for us. So, so first of all, welcome to all of the school board members. We've gathered you here because we want you guys to hear all the same message, obviously, about how we're going to be using NUE assessments for the 22-23 school year. Diane, if you can go to the next slide. We do want to give you some background. So we want to inform you of Maine DOE's changes and how they're going to affect the decision-making at the local level. And I'm going to turn it over to Karen for the next slide.
First, I want to go over the federal requirements of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the ESEA, with its current provisions under the Every Student Succeeds Act. This federal law requires Maine to administer a standardized test. This is one of the many requirements that enable Maine to accept more than $70 million in federal funding for our schools each year. Federal law requires students to participate in state assessment who attend Maine's publicly funded schools, including public and charter magnet schools and private schools that receive federal funds up to at least 60%. States must assess students in grades 3 through 8 and once in high school for mathematics and reading. And states must also test students in science at least once within the 3 grade spans, grade 3 through 5, 6 through 9, and 10 through 12. So the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESEA, stipulates that states must assess at least 95% of all students, including each subgroup and children with disabilities, with the approved federally funded statewide academic content assessments, and to meet federal accountability requirements. Districts and schools in Maine with lower than 95% participation rates could receive less federal funds. Low participation rates can also skew the performance data for the schools. Participation rate data comes from annual spring assessment results in Maine DOE student records. In addition, the Maine DOE utilizes district reported enrollment data and aligns it with the participation in the MEAs for each applicable grade. So students with disabilities are also required to participate in the state assessments with the appropriate assessment accommodations as indicated in their IEPs and 504 plans. Students with the more significant cognitive disabilities are assessed with alternate assessments. The multi-state alternate assessment, or the MSAA, is Maine's alternate assessment of alternate academic achievement standards in the content areas of math and English language arts literacy, as well as science. This assessment is administered in the spring for grades 3 through 8 in the 3rd year of high school and is designed for students with, again, the most significant cognitive disabilities. The assessment is designed so that it's computer-based, but paper-based tests are also available with an approved IEP accommodation. The assessment window for the 2020-2023 school year for the main alternate assessment is March 13th through April 28th. So that's a 6-week window. Federal requirements do not allow greater than 1% of the population to participate in the alternate assessment. This could also result in an impact on federal funds. Should a state exceed the 1% cap, a waiver can be requested through the US DOE. But the prerequisite for that waiver is that 95% participation rate is in effect.
So assessing students, as you know, is essential to education. Providing data that can be used to lead to improved instruction and outcomes is essential. Assessments can take many forms, and each type of assessment has a distinct value and purpose in a comprehensive assessment system. Educators, policymakers, and the assessment community use data to improve education and address the needs of the workforce and the economy. Specifically, assessment data allows our district to track cohort information over time so we can follow specific grade levels and determine ways to meet each group of students and individual learners' unique needs. No single test can give you a complete picture of achievement. Here in RSU 38, we combine local assessments, student grades, and teacher reports to look at the whole picture that shows the essential information about student progress. Next slide. So during the 22-23 school year, the state of Maine will transition from using the NWEA MAP growth assessment in mathematics and English language arts to the NWEA through year assessment in math and reading. The state still requires that the NWEA MAP growth reading and math assessment take place during the fall and spring in grades 3 through 8 and optional in winter. The fall and winter and spring administrations will continue to provide RTI scores, RIT scores, not RTI, I apologize, for all grade levels assessed to measure student growth over time. However, several changes are beginning this year. First, the language usage portion of the test is now optional for fall and winter. Second, the reading and math assessments are required for the second year instead of the third year of high school. Third, the spring 2023 assessment will be the first administration of the adaptive through year assessment for grades 3 through 8. The second year of high school assessment will be a fixed form, not adaptive assessment this very first year. And finally, the spring assessment will additionally measure a student's on-grade proficiency. Next slide. That's a lot of information there. The state requires all students to be tested within a 4-week window in October and May. And as a district, we will use the winter NWEA as a checkpoint for goal setting and monitoring students' progress in grades K to 5. Next slide. RSU 38 currently uses NWEA MAP growth results as a data point when determining academic GT identification, academic interventions, and special education referrals. We'll turn it back over to Karen.
So as a district, we also administer the NWEA MAP assessment from grades K through 2 and grade 9 to provide us with longitudinal student data. Educators can use longitudinal data to see students' performance patterns over time and current data to intervene as soon as problems emerge for adaptive teaching accordingly. The administrative team can use NWEA data to evaluate programs, predict outcomes on future outcomes, allocate resources, and plan professional development. In a district and school teams can use the data to identify trends for students and grades within their schools and create flexible learning groups and target professional development for teachers. Teachers can use the MAP results to understand students' instructional readiness, plan differentiated instruction, set student goals, monitor progress toward those goals, and communicate student performance with parents and families.
So there are many ways to help prepare students for the upcoming NWEA reading and math assessments in October. First and foremost, teachers can talk about the purpose of MAP testing with students and families. For example, the test results will show student performance so teachers can best help their students in class. It will also help teachers know what each student should work on to improve the most. Teachers also can review the test format with students. For instance, students should know they are not expected to know the answer to every question. However, they cannot skip items and they cannot go back. Next slide. There are several ways to actually celebrate student participation and growth rates. First, principals can track participation rates after each assessment window and have some whole school celebrations. Teachers can help students to set goals from fall to spring and send home growth certificates. Finally, schools can provide treats after each assessment to acknowledge their students' efforts. Sorry, I gotta get to my next page. One of the 3 district goals in 22-23 is to foster a data literate professional staff by housing and accessing achievement data in a way that leads to collaborative discussions. The use of data in an informed and strategic fashion throughout all levels of our various district and school teams is necessary and essential to informing the decisions made that focus on student growth.
So in conclusion, there are several steps we can take to improve student participation rates and engagement with the NUIA in October. Strategies include communicating with parents about the importance of the NUIA, informing parents about their child's testing days, and providing tips to parents for preparing at home. In collaboration with the principals, the technology director, Diane, has scheduled testing sessions that optimize student engagement. For example, testing in the morning as much as possible at the K-5 level, or aligning with English and math instruction blocks for teachers at the high school. Additionally, we can ensure that only one subject area is tested in a day and that there's at least 1 day separation between testing sessions when appropriate. Principals can plan activities to promote student engagement and actively celebrate success with their staff and students. And finally, we can all set spring goals for improvement with individual students as a school and as a district. So I want to thank the summer work group that met several times this summer that identified participation and engagement with the state assessment as an area to focus on this year. They actually provided a lot of the information through research and collaboration that helped inform this presentation.
Thank you. So the next piece I'd like to draw your attention to in your folder is that NUIA report. First off, I'm going to say there's a lot of information on that page, and I'm not going to stand up here and read it to you. I'll let you guys kind of take a look at that. But I do want to draw your attention to the NUIA provided proficiency categories so that you understand. It's really, really important that you understand, like, if a student has 40%, that doesn't mean they failed or anything like that. This is this test, really what we should be looking at is 50% wherever a student is, and Karen can correct me if I simplify this too much or put too much in. If there's we actually want to see when you test, 50% of the students should be 50% and above, and 50% of your students should be 49% and lower. So when you're looking at proficiency levels, for example, the reading one that's right there at the top, you'll notice that the reading, which is in that blue color, 29% are identified at advanced. So they are in the 70th to the 90th percentile. Now, that designation comes directly from NUIA, and that's what the state is working off of at this point as well, because the state does not have a test that's aligned perfectly. How do I want to say it? They don't have a separate test that aligns perfectly. The NUIA is their test, so we're using the NUIA numbers that are there. So again, 29% of our students are at the advanced level. We've got 38% that's at the proficient level, which is the 40th to the 69%. And then what you see there is what's below, which is 40% or lower, is at 33%, or excuse me, 39%, 39th percentile and lower at that level. So when you're looking at that, just so that you're kind of processing through, there's more information there. That's a very simplistic approach. There's more information there to help you guys kind of read that. The same, do you want to add anything to that before?
Well, so I did above there with participation rates, according to the data that was collected for spring 2022, we were, with the grade levels required to participate in the state assessment, we were around the 90.5, 90.6% participation rate. And federal, again, what I shared earlier in the presentation, federal law requires 95% participation. So we do need to do a better job in ensuring that we are hitting the mark with our participation rates. as part of our ESEA application that I completed this summer, they asked that question and I have to say, did we meet that mark or not? And if we didn't, I have to indicate what we're doing as a district to address it. And then they'll follow up with that next time.
So the question you guys are probably gonna ask, so what does that mean? Are we losing money? You know, what's going on?
Not
So
this time.
the short answer is, remember we were in a pandemic, so they've kind of waived a lot of those financial consequences. But going forward, that's why we need to make participation a priority going forward with these tests with Maria, so that we hit that mark. Otherwise, there probably will be consequences next year. So that's why you're hearing us talk a lot about participation, because we really need people to participate. Yeah, go ahead.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Do people not participate simply because they're out or something? Don't make it out?
There's multiple reasons. There's multiple reasons. So, and then the chart on the bottom shows the students that met their projected growth rates from fall 2021 to spring 2022. So again, you can see for both reading and math. And this data that I'm sharing is K through 11 because we assess all those grades. So that's not just the required grade levels for the state assessment. The ones that say no scores, what that essentially means is that there wasn't two scores. So they had one score or no score. So if they may have had a fall score, but they didn't have a spring score, so there could be no direct comparison or vice versa.
That's a lot of information,
And
you
we'll
guys.
have a lot more information. I've spent a good part of my day in meetings with the DOE, with the changes with the assessment in the spring. And a lot of districts have many questions, many that the state couldn't answer today. So it'll be interesting to see where we're at in the next few months leading up to that spring assessment with the new through year assessment that they are trying out.
Of course.
I guess I have kind of two questions, kind of along Kelsey's line of, is it a lot of parent opt-outs as to why we're not getting that full participation? And then my other question is, how big of a difference is that? Is that 15 kids or is that 100 kids? Like, I mean, are we talking a huge difference from that 90% to 95%? Or are we talking, you know, like it's 12 kids and sometimes that's really hard to hit that 95% mark,
No
matter how
it
you
was a
try.
substantial amount of students, and there was multiple reasons why students did not.
Do you have examples by chance?
So if students were out sick, parents opt out. If the students, the students that have all students are required. So you're either taking the new year with accommodations or taking the alternative assessment. So that should account for the entire population. So we did have a huge number this spring.
And one of the things that I'll just throw out there that has always been a struggle pre-pandemic was the amount, how much testing were our students doing? And it was pretty substantial. So one of the things about NUIA that is going to be helpful is we're actually reducing testing time, which is teachers are going to be definitely grateful for. I know we're all grateful for that as well. But because we're reducing the testing time, we also need to make sure people are there and take that seriously and aren't just opting out because our federal funds depend on that. So it's, we don't want to use the opt-out language because we really need all of our students to take that test, obviously for federal funds, but we also need to get an accurate read on where our students are so we can provide the services they need to move forward. Yeah,
So I'm just wondering if parents are informed about that 95% participation rate so that they can really encourage their kids to do it.
Yeah, so a letter went home this past week in all the new school newsletters. There'll be some more information to follow as we lead up to this.
I think that's important for parents to understand the importance of that 95% so that, you know, they're just not saying, oh, my kids, I don't want to do it. No, you don't have to. So, yeah. David?
And also, and I'm sure that was included too, what you just said, that to evaluate them, whether they need help, what level they're at, whether they're doing fantastically. Make sure the parents know that for the students' sake, this isn't just for fun, or just for us to keep track of everybody. It's so that we can, as you already said, it's so that we can help them.
Yeah, totally agree. I think we need to know, and parents need to know where we are, where we stand, and where we need to go to advance. Yes.
And I think if you look at that table too, that's for me the more concerning place, and that speaks to the words you hear about learning loss and that kind of stuff, because really we should be seeing graphs that are 50%, 50%. And right now the yes is at 42 in reading and the no is at 53. That's skewed, which says to us we have some work to do to get students back to where they need to be. So we need accurate information. We need to know where those holes are. And that's what that test gives us, that information, so we can attack those strategies that are going to be most beneficial for the students moving forward. So yeah, that's the one that concerns me the most, is that graph.
This is just a follow. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
Go ahead. Go for
sorry,
it.
Steve. Go ahead.
Follow up to
Patty
that.
and Jade. Sorry.
Is this lower, the graph that's on the bottom of this page that is concerning to you? Is this pretty typical though of what you're seeing, what other districts are showing, or national, or all of, yeah, everywhere, global? Yeah.
Wish we could say no.
I know.
No.
Jade?
I know that parents are allowed to opt out. I mean, I've seen the stuff come home that says that it is your choice. We thought about calling them and having a conversation with them just to kind of further educate. Because I know sometimes we get papers in our bags and all that stuff, and not everybody has a chance to read them, go through them, look through them, and not everybody has the education to be able to look through and decipher it. So I just didn't know if that might be an option, or if we're allowed to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. We want to encourage participation, and anything we need to do that, we absolutely should do that. So. Yeah.
Any other questions from the board?
So to end, as you guys review, especially this page, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to me, or you can reach out to Dr. Smith as well. We will absolutely get you any more information you need or answer any of your questions, because that was a lot to absorb in a very short amount of time there. So please, we welcome questions. That's how we're going to kind of get the ship back where we want it. So it's all good.
Patty?
I just want to make a comment that after hearing as a board person or as a teacher, a lot of presentations about NUIAs, it was so wonderful to have. I love this presentation about NUIAs, which is really weird that I'm saying that, but it was, I loved the focus on differentiation and collaboration and growth and all of that. And I know that those things are not necessarily new when looking at NUIA stuff, but it hasn't always been talked about. So I really appreciate that was in.
Thank you, Karen, for all the work that you put into this presentation. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Jag. Ready for your next one?
I am, yes. I'm not going to stand at the podium for that one. If you'll take a look, I know you guys were very curious about the work we're doing with EAD around teacher and staff morale. In your packet, I kind of put together just a summary sheet so you would understand kind of the timeline of how everything is progressing. So obviously that's goal number one for us, is to prioritize staff morale. And we want an ongoing systematic feedback loop. So we don't want a one and done. We want something that we can carry over year after year after year. And actually, I was in the collaborative this afternoon, and they actually recommend we do it 4 times a year, but we're just at the beginning stages. So I'm just hoping for 1 and maybe 2 times this year and kind of build from there. So EAB, for those of you that don't know, is the Educational Advisory Board. You can visit their website. It's very simple, eab.com. They are actually a research institution that's been working with higher education, and in the last 5 years or so has branched down into the K-12 realm. We are going to have 2 leads on this project, so I will be myself and Dr. Smith. That will be the leads on this, but there's going to be a lot of additional participation from teachers, principals, the directors, the managers, support staff, bus drivers, etc. So there will be multiple opportunities for people to join in, especially when we get to the 3rd section, which is called the co-design solutions. So there'll be invites going out to people, and there'll be some small group kind of collaboratives that'll be happening as well. The first meeting I did with the collaborative with EAB, Dr. Smith and myself, was today. We spent an hour and a half with them, and we were able to map out our first plan for the questionnaire that we're going to send out to staff. And we'll actually be looking to get that out not this Friday, but next Friday. And we'll be doing some communication, and we will also be doing at the very beginning of October a little update, kind of similar to what I'm giving you guys here, to the larger staff so that they kind of know where we're going with this. The collaborative itself is that I'm working with is 4 meetings over 4 months. So the last collaborative meeting is the 14th. But what's nice about that is at the end of that, we should kind of have mapped everything out. We have their expertise guiding us through all of the different steps. So we should have a sustainable model that we can use as part of that. So what they provide to us is technical and implementation support with diagnostic questions for all staff. And I have just one example on the back of a diagnostic question that we would use, which is just, they're very simple. How would you rate your overall satisfaction level with my school district? It's a 1 through 5, you know, from very disappointed, or excuse me, very dissatisfied to very satisfied, and then the school district, and then obviously the school. We have a series of about 20 questions that we're going to ask. All total, the survey will probably take about 5 minutes, and it is going to go out to all staff. So it'll be the teaching staff, the support staff, all of the support staff. So we really are going to try to encourage, again, participation with that, especially as we're kind of establishing our baseline and trying to identify what are the things we want to work on around teacher morale. They will also give us analysis tools to synthesize the survey results, which is really great. And they'll support us in identifying threats, and they are going to give us templates for meetings. They're going to give us communication templates, the co-design membership invites as well, and possible solutions to threats based on the hierarchy of needs, and a bank of possible specific ideas to those threats that we can actually put into action with that. And we are, in today's meeting, there were approximately, I put 20 on here, but in today's meeting, there was probably closer to 30 districts from around the country there going forward. So again, if you flip the paper over, one of the threats they talk about that we want to see and identify, they're tied to the question. So all these questions that we're asking actually link to a specific threat so that we can gauge what's the priority for staff around this. So one of the threats is times and resources. And as it says there, access to the right resources and training for success in a manageable workload. So that's just one of the threats. And again, I didn't want to give you guys everything because there are 6 of them there, but it goes on and on. So I don't think you guys want to get too deep into the weeds there. So the timeline of what we're trying to do on this first round of the morale initiative is to get that survey completed by staff at the end of September. So actually it's going to go out the end of September, and they'll have about 2 weeks to do it so that we can then start the next part of this, which is the analysis of the survey data, and use that to prioritize or to diagnose some of the causes of low morale. Then in November, we'll be prioritizing those threats using their specific model and then going through into the co-design solutions from there. And they will provide us further support later in the year to kind of check in and see how things are going in, February and March, I believe is what they said today. And again, they said they would love to see schools do this 4 times a year, but they also know this is a new model for a lot of schools. So we're going to try to take a small bite at a time and expand it as we go forward. But it's really, really important that this is not a one and done. It's something that is going to continue over and over again from there. My plan right now is each month after I've had the collaboratives to report out to you guys so that you'll have a basic understanding of what's going on. So from here on out, you'll see that in the second workshop meeting. I will give you guys an update and let you know where we are specifically. And hopefully I'll be able to share small snippets of data with you as we go forward here. So I can answer any questions you guys have. I brought all my stuff with me today. So that's, again, a lot of information in a short period of time. Any questions?
Quick question.
Kelly?
I'm sorry, Jay, I might have missed you saying it. Is this a mandatory participation?
No,
kind of thing?
it's totally optional. They can, and the survey will be totally anonymous as well.
That's
So,
good.
Yeah.
I
So
think anonymous is good.
yeah.
This is great.
Yeah.
This is very cool. And I love how you've outlined this and organized this. I'm concerned that people won't participate or continue to participate. So I wondered if there was like an incentive program that gets people to fully participate and want to participate because it's important.
Well, and that's why we're going to talk with staff at the beginning of October. We're going to talk to all staff about this and explain it to them, let them know about the survey being anonymous, and also make sure that they know they have invites to join that group. So it won't be me sitting there commanding everything. We'll actually, there'll be times where I'll step back and Karen may run something, or maybe even one of the other principals may run something, and I'll step back so that way it can be, you know how it is when the superintendent's in the room, sometimes conversations change. So step back and give them a chance to work through what they need to work through. So
Very good.
I think just 2 things to kind of bring up about it.
sure.
If we're doing it, it's our first time doing it, make sure that we actually follow through on what staff bring forward. Otherwise, they're never going to participate again. We see it federal level all the time. It's also good once you send out that survey, give people that time to go in and answer it and send out reminders and say, hey, this is the percentage that have completed it. It'd be great to see some more participation. Our goal is, 90% completion, or and just kind of show people where we're at and how people are coming through with that. I just think it's a good motivator, but really have to follow through on the other end with problems and concerns that are brought forward.
I understand. So do the staff know about this yet? They have only heard me talk about it in general terms at the beginning of the year. So that's why there will be communication going out next week before they actually even get the link to the survey. There's going to be some communication going out. So there'll be kind of a constant stream of communication that goes out around that and trying to encourage participation and giving them a chance to ask some questions too if they have them.
Is there a comment box or is it strictly multiple?
It's strictly,
Okay,
that's a good question. It's just strictly these questions because they're tied to the specific threats. So it'll be fun. I think you guys will enjoy it. I'm really looking forward to the results because I feel like it's actually going to give us a direction because I feel like sometimes we shoot darts and hope we're getting the right thing. Karen, would you like to add anything? You were at the collaborative this morning. Oh, you'll have to go to that.
So the second workshop is all about collecting qualitative data. So it's not just the quantitative data from the survey. So we'll be looking at other sources of information as well to help kind of get that whole picture.
So are we saying this could help by that 90%?
Yes, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so.
99%?
So I
I
just
like
want to, add to what Kelsey and Jade were saying that, I'm a little bit concerned about the participation because I want to make sure that people understand why we're doing this and what we're hoping to gain from this. And I think if they're just thinking, oh, here's another survey that we have to fill out, they're just gonna, so I just think it's really important to make sure that when your initial email or information communication goes out, that it's really explained why, what's the purpose of this, so. That's a thought. Anyone else? Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
Okay, so, do I have a motion to go into executive session?
Session to consider the assignment of duties pursuant to Washington SA section 4056.
Second. All right, I gotta do a roll call because times, yeah, sorry. David G,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty, Kelty,
Yes.
David T,
Yes.
and Eric.
Yes.
So it's unanimous. We are now in executive session.
So after a thorough and thoughtful discussion with Jay, the board now more fully understands the decision-making process that is used in our district. The decision about the literacy interventionist at this, we feel, was the best decision for the district as a whole at this time. Do I have a motion for adjournment? All those in favor?
You don't even have to vote for an adjournment. We are adjourned. 8:37.